Hello there. I'm so excited to be here today and maybe a little bit able to help you and to see together if the things we built today and yesterday are actually that great or if we need to maybe get a little bit more better. So, well, I already talked too much hello time, so yeah, I'm so glad to see you today. Okay, so let's take a look. I heard you want to learn a little bit about Cypress. So there's a little task you, I guess, took care of, hopefully, and let's pray to the live demo God. It will work out in my case too. But yeah, let's start with the first things first. So we want to install Cypress first. Um, I prepared a little bit beforehand, but just to see, and I hope the resolution is okay, so you can all see or comfortable read my screen. If not, please let help. But I assume this is okay. At least this looks like this. Okay, so Cypress, to install Cypress, that's basically the way you are used to when it comes to installing stuff with your favorite package manager. Maybe npm, yarn, pnpm. The typical one is npm install Cypress, and you can go for a certain version if you want to. So let me guess. I guess we are using one of the more or less the not complete current version because they released recently, but almost like Cypress 12. Let me see. So if you install it, go with npm install Cypress or whatever you like to, and then we can already run it. So, but before we run it, let me quickly introduce you a little bit to the Cypress look, like how does a typical Cypress project looks like. So we are here at the VueForge main repo, and I basically have a pretty plain Cypress installation. We are in the root folder here, and you can find the package.json and the config files here. So some interesting stuff to take a look later on. And yeah, as you see, it's 12.10.0 we're using right now, but it should be okay to use the newest version. But yeah, let's be better safe than sorry and go with that one. And the most magic will be in the Cypress folder here. So there you have the T folder where you hopefully created your tests in. So all the tests will be there. The fixtures folder, if you have some fixed test data you want to use, so could be basically anything contained in JSON files, and the support folder where you can extend Cypress if you want to, so using all commands and stuff. But yeah, enough theory, let's try to run Cypress. And there are many ways to do it, like npx commands, npx Cypress open, I think. I will go with a link to, oh, that's not the way I wanted to. Let's go with the binary one, but you could use the path to the binary too if you want to, or define some small npm scripts. Basically, like we have some in the package.json here, you could basically write, I don't know, Cypress open will be this one. Hopefully this might work out, but otherwise we could go with this one. So npm run cy open. Please be kind to me. And yeah, I know it might take some time because I'm open this thingy. I'm opening the first time, and there we go. There's Cypress. So some little configuration needs to be done, but yeah, we can go with V3 testing. Yeah, I'm having a little accident. Obviously, I didn't start it everything yet. So let's go back here, zoom a little bit in. I really need to get better in praying to the live demo gods, I think. Opening our product and run, I guess npm run dev, right? Yeah, so hopefully it doesn't take too much time. I need some Star Wars elevator music, but I don't know if we have a copyright for it. So, okay, let's try it again. Now Cypress is happy. So, here it will display you all browsers you have installed on your machine. So, depending on the machine you're using, there might be more, there might be less, but I like to go with Chrome for today. So, let's get into it. And Cypress will help you a little bit when it comes to creating your first spec file if you want to. So maybe let's just try to create a new one. And as we have the two little tasks we want to use, we can basically start with those. So give me a little second. How should we call it? Should I be creative? I will call it chat.cy.cs. Like there's a little cy to signalize we are using Cypress tests. And yeah, we will create it. So of course this little test doesn't do that much stuff. So let's still run it, but we will get better in a little bit. So the test is loading. And it will just visit the example page. So kind of boring, right? So let's go back. Let's see where it was created. And there we are, chat.cy.js. And this little boilerplate text can be customized to our chatbot too. So how should we go now? This describe block here, I don't know if many people of you guys know what it is, and it already gives a little example. It's by Mocha, and it describes the suite. So basically, it serves as a frame for the test file. You can use it for structuring your test file in a good way, and yeah. But also, it can be important for hooks, which we'll cover in a bit. So yeah. How should we call our test today? I will go with the first part. Like, we want to open the chat box when the chat icon is clicked, right? So let's call it like open chat if the chat icon was clicked. All right, so all the tests we will have in this test suite or test file will take care of this chat. And the actual tests basically are these eat functions here, so that it passes. All right, so I guess I could transfer the name to the test thingy and just call our test suite chatbot, something like this. Yeah, it should open the chat if the chat is. Yeah, I like this even more. So, okay. We could say, let's visit our application on localhost right away and see what, a little bit too much. Let's see if we can access the page already. Localhost and we'll pull up 3000, run it, and go back to the test and see. Yeah, it looks kind of great, right? But I don't know if I want to clutter our test with all those URL completely. So we already saw that there's a little config file inside of the root folder. It's this cypress.config.js. And as you see, I already stored the localhost URL inside of the base URL. So the base URL is basically our unit and the test we will always use. And if we set this here in the config file, we can say like, okay, please go with a slash for the root. And the URL we defined as a base URL will be here as a prefix. So we should still be able to access our site. And here it worked out. And it's rather clean, right? Okay. Another nice thing about the config is if we go here to settings and project settings, we can find all those configuration thingies, and even with the colored highlight where we set this configuration. So this one was provided by our config file, as we see here, but we would even see if we have some configuration done by environment variables or CAI parameters, which can really help you if you want to debug. Well, okay, back to the test. So we were already able to visit the page, and now we need to see, okay, what do we really want to test? So I will run it again. And as we already said, it should open the chat if the chat icon was clicked. So yeah, I guess we should try to do exactly this and see how Cypress would approach it. So to click an element in the Cypress tests, you need to let Cypress know which element you want to interact with. And there are a couple of possibilities to do this. So first, you could use this little go icon or however it's called. And if you activated it and you hover over these elements here, you already see that it highlights it and it will give you the selector which matches on it. It will be a unique one, or if it's not unique, you will see it here in this one match. But yeah, we want to have a certain one. It's yeah, this chat icon here. And I see one great thing if I look at this selector, like this seems to be a data attribute. And I love to use data attributes in my tests as selectors to say to Cypress, like, you need to click this event, because a data attribute is not that prone to change. So imagine, for example, you refactor your application and you have a CSS selector, like, for example, here, and you want to refactor the class names. Your test will fail, but there's no error inside of it, just a renamed class, for example, if it's called like input new or something. So in this regard, your test could fail really often. Of course, some people could rename data attributes too, but it's not that likely. And if you, for example, use a name like data tests, your fellow developer will know that it's for testing purposes, right? So yeah, I like that we already built our application like that. Okay, so let's go with the selector. I want to copy it to the clipboard. I want to go back to the test and say like Cypress. Get this element with this selector. It will be yielded by this command called get. And we can chain some commands after it. So this click will be applied to the element you see here. Okay, let's turn on the reality filter and see if I was right with explaining like that. So yeah, the chat bot opened the window, the chat window here. And another great thing is if you pin the click here, you can see where it clicks. You see this little circle here, the red one? It will highlight where the click has happened. You can take a look at the state before and after. So you can exactly see what happens if you click this button. And this already hints to a wonderful Cypress feature. It's called time traveling. It will basically show you every step your test will do when it's executed. Of course, we don't do that much here yet, so it's not this impressive, but we will take a look at this time travel later as soon as we have more steps to observe. Okay, well, one could argue now that we have a test, like it clicks and it works, right? But do we really know it works? There assertions come into place. So we can say, okay, before we click it, we want to make sure that there's no chat window open, right? And of course, to be sure that the chat window is open, we want to make sure that it's like there. So therefore, we will say, okay, let me copy this. I want to have the chat window, right? So let's go back here, or I will simply rerun it. I will show you the second way of getting art selectors. So like you could use the dev tools the way you are used to when it comes to developer tools. So you could use this selector here and basically find the element by using the Chrome DevTools or Firefox. If you prefer to use Firefox, you could go with this one too. And there's a data test attribute too. So let's go with the chat widget content. So at the first part, I don't want it to be visible or existent. So I will say like Cypress, give me the element with the data test ID, data test attribute chat widget content, and it should exist. So should not exist. So it's nowhere present in the DOM, so it doesn't exist at all. And as soon as we click it, we want it to be existent. So should exist. So if we do the click and it doesn't open the chat window, we should know in the test should fail. Let's see. Here it is there, it's existing. However, there's one advice I want to give to you. One point is there's an implicit assertion in the get command, which makes sure that an element is already existent. So Cypress does this automatically in most cases. And secondly, it only checks if something exists, but not if the user can interact with it. Imagine there's an animation popping in, or it's just hidden, or something like this. So I would treat this assertion a little bit with the chain and be visible. So I want to make sure that it's visible and interactable, basically. Let's see if it still works out. Yeah, it's working out. Wonderful. All right. So these assertions, just as a side note, can be used for waiting dynamically in an application too. So if we want to make sure this is there before we basically later on start to type with it, and we don't want to wait for a fixed waiting time, which I don't want to see in any of your pull requests anywhere. This can be really used to make sure you're waiting just exactly the right time, not too long, to make your tests even slower than it needs to be, or too short, making your test flaky. So yeah, prefer using visibility or waiting for any changes in the UI. Okay, I digress. So yeah, and coming back, we have a wonderful test which has covered some basic path, right? We want to have a second one. The second one covering the typing in the chat box, pressing enter, sending a message to the chat, and that the answer of the chat box is correctly, right? I would prefer to have a separation of concern and write a second test inside of this test split. But I don't know, but do you guys like to avoid duplication too? So let's think about making Cypress doing this visit before each and every test. There, some lifecycle hooks will come into place. There's one which is executed before all tests, after all tests, but also before each and every test and after each and every test. So I guess the before each hook might be the perfect hook to use for us if we don't want to have this line in the beginning of every test, right? Okay, let's type it. The proper typing and right one is perfect. So my idea is already helping me to know what to write. This is perfect. So let's go here on the combo function and move this little step into the before each hook. Okay. We run the test to see if I didn't mess up, and I didn't. And you see here, there's the before each highlighted inside of the log file, and it's apart from the actual test case. So especially if you want to, for example, create some test data beforehand, this is good to have the separations of concern here too, because the test should only be one test case, right? Okay, back here. We want to have a new test, I guess. So let's start with another it function here. It, giving it a title. How do I want to call it? It should display the user message on input. So we are able to type into the chat and enter and display the bot's response. So we have a conversation, haven't we? The bot's response. Okay, I hope it's easy to read it here. So this looks fine. We will use another callback function, another function, because I like them. There we go. Then, okay, what do we want to say to our chatbot first? I will already define it here because even if it's not that common, we can use some things like arrange, act, assert, which is a commonly known pattern in unit testing. And I'd like to structure my tests already in a lean way that we, in best case, can read our test and get it in first intent, right? So this is the arrange part where I define everything I need to. I call it arrange, just so you know. So the definition of the message is really creative, I know. Let's say hello Cypress. There we go. Okay, then we need to do something, I guess. So let's say I will want to open this, so I will get it here. We wanna type in, so we will say Cypress get us please the input. Okay, let's quickly see what the selector of the input field is. I will use this here. Okay, that's it. It's set input, so I could have thought that myself. Okay, Cypress, get me the input field with the data attribute chat input, and there I want you to type in. Let's make it valid proof and say we will check if it's visible beforehand, like we said before. We have a dependency on the input field to be visible and injectable, so I will check it. So first, please check if it's visible, and then if you are certain, you can type in our message. So let's go with string results and sing like message. And after it, we can directly press the enter key. Okay. There we go. Enter. Okie dokie. Then let's quickly see if it's already working out. And yeah, I entered it and it already answers me. Woohoo! Hello, Batman. Oh god, Batman sounds like Batman, and I have the catchy song like Banana Batman in my hair. I hope you are not mad at me because I said like this and you join in. I don't know. So we saw it's working, but we need to accept that it's working too. So, for example, if you run it in CI, nobody will see what the test is doing, right? So let's get this little chat bubble here. Going back, this one. Check for the selector again. And I guess it's already looking okay-ish. let's go with it. Maybe, but I will adjust it to be a bit better to read later on. So let's go here. I guess we can use this one. We want to have always the last chat bubble, right? So you could use last of type, for example. Let me quickly get this little selector here because it's a little bit long and I don't want to waste your time. So let's go with this one here like this. It's escaped. I don't like this. So let's make it a bit more cleaner. So we are in the chat bubble. We want to have the last one of it. And there we want to have the text in it. So this way we could do it. And then we are using the shield again. This little one we use for be visible. But this time we will be a little bit more because we want to insert the text in it and not only see if it's visible or not. So let's say should contain text. Contain is sometimes a bit more friendlier. So because it will see, for example, if we only say should contain hello, it will pass because it can find the hello inside of it here. So like this one. You could go on an exact match too by using equals, but sometimes you cannot say like, okay, is there a line break? Is there some spaces I didn't take into account? So for now, the contain text is completely fine, I think. Let's quickly do some line breaks too, so it's easier to read. And then let's go with the text we have inside of our application. So it's this one. Of course, we need to be certain now that this text is the one we have to. So we are in a test. If we write a test, we will write down the status quo, right? So, okay. Is this already good the way it is? Or should I go with double quotes? Yeah, I go with double quotes here, just for once, even if I prefer single ones. This way. And then I can remove the escaping here. Okay, yeah. A little bit long still, but I hope you can still see it properly. Let's check if the test is still working out. It is perfect. So, okay. There we have a working test. Let us quickly take a look if it's failed. So I will by purpose make it fail right now. There we go. And it will not find the text in it, of course, because I added a little dash here. So you can see how the error message looks like. It's already quite telling what happens, right? So you can see it expected a certain text, but it found another one. If you want to have more information on it, you can go pin it by just clicking it once, then inspecting the page source here. And in console, there will be basically any information you can think of, like, is it a search command? Like, what command did you use? The subject it was applied to can be seen and highlighted here. And here are some little stuff. Okay. Well, there's one little issue I see in this test. It's not an issue, but well, we are working with ChatGPT here, right? So we are a little bit dependent on the third-party service. If ChatGPT is not working, our test is not working too, and we cannot control it. Like, we need to trust them to fix it soon, right? So there might be some flakiness if there's an outage or lots of load on the API of them. I don't like this. So there's one question which every one of you should answer by yourself because it's a bit opinionated, but is it more important to be closer to the user because we are basically acting exactly like a user would do right now, but at the expense of the control over your application and with some flakiness maybe involved? Or do we start to mock stuff we cannot control. So we will act like the API. Well, I will show you how to mock API responses and end-to-end tests now. But if you want to use it, it's something that's up to you. And maybe we have some time left later on, and I basically can talk about it a little bit. Okay, API mocking. At first, we need to have a little fixed test data we want to use. Something which won't change in between applications, for example. And as briefly already mentioned, there's a folder for it in the Cypress folder. It's this one, it's the fixtures one here. So let's create a little JSON file in it so we can use it later on. And it will basically, it should be the response we want to have back from the application later on. Okay, how do we want to call it? Let's go with chatbot response updates. Okay. And there I will copy paste it because I don't want to be that boring and type this complete file we want to have. So this is basically a typical response we want to have. With the ID, the object, the usage, with the prompt tokens we have, the model we are using right now, and the choices. So what message will be given back, which is this basically. So it's fairly similar to the one we used before, but we use another word here. Okay, so how can we now act like the API response, right? There's a little command which can do more than just API mocking, but for the time frame, let's go with the mocking first, and we can still see if we want to use more than that. In the I completely forgot. Here we act, like here we do some stuff, and at that point we assert. So here are the assertions. Range act assert. So there is the definitions for everything we defined. It's important for the API because later on, then we do all the things we need to do to trigger the scenario we want to have, and the assert here. We really check if the application is behaving like we want to. Okay, back to the show, back to the mocking. We will define the requests now with a certain Cypress command. It's called Cypress intercept. In it, we will define a little bit to basically see the request we want to work with. It's a post request. And the root it comes from, the endpoint, is using the path API that I think, but we can look it up here in Cypress too. Yeah, there it is. You can see the fetch request here. And if you pin it, you can have even more information on it. Again, similar to the commands we have at the click right before it. So here you can see the event which happened, the resource type, which is a fetch, the method, URL in use, the headers we used, and the response we used. Okay, so pretty good, right? Okay, so let's get back to it. And great. Let's see how it's working. We have still the error in it, which is okay. And yeah, we need still to include a little alias to find it. We don't need this, but it makes it a little bit more clear to find it. So AI request. Okay. There it is, AI request. But now let's put in the mock. There we go, and give here the fixture. And the object will have fixture. And then we will use the name chatbot response.json. Okay. Let's see if our test's working right now. Of course it won't, but we see the yet word is in it. So let's quickly go back and revert the dash here. Get back. Okay, yeah, it's something still not working. Yeah, let me yeah, okay, I didn't adjusted the text here. So let's go back. Okay. And there we are. It's working. Yay! Wonderful. So this is basically it when it comes to the test itself. Another neat thing you could do is I will remove this fixture part for a little bit. You can wait for API requests too. So if we want to have another neat way to rate, you could use this one. Cypress wait using at AI, how did I call it? Request. Okay. Request. It's response dot status good and should equal, let me do a little line break, should equal, I hope it was at 200, we will see if it is. Yeah, it is. So the text, because I removed the mark that text would not be the right one, but as you see, it asserted on the status code. So you can wait for responses to be successful too on this point. Okay. Okay. Well, I guess I quickly for the last time I will reintroduce the fixture for one last time. Let's go back here. So we have one last final test in green, and there we are. So I hope I was able to showcase the exercise in a good way. If you got any questions, feel free to leave them in the chat or reach out to me on Twitter or wherever you find me. And yeah, thank you so much for listening to me.
And we still have quite a few questions for you. Yay!
Oh, please.
Yay! And thank you for that. All right, starting off, what is one feature of Cypress that you really enjoyed that wasn't used during this event?
I guess I'm still learning to make good use of it, but I love the component testing. So if you took attention at the start, you have seen this little, how is it called? This little wizard like configured E2E testing and component testing. So component testing can be described as a mixture of E2E testing, but on a really small, almost unit testing or maybe integration testing. This is a discussion but level, where you can have this complete test runner just tailored for one little component. And I like to use this one to have both, best of both worlds, basically, best of the test runner, but still a little more isolated way and not always needing to write full-blown end-to-end tests to test my components.
Great, thank you. All right, next one. How about Playwright? Have you
Hmm.
used it, and what are some similarities and differences between Playwright and Cypress?
Yeah, I use Playwright, and it's basically my second favorite framework. It is kind of similar to Cypress because it serves the same purpose to help you writing and end tests. But it depends on what you like more. So, do you like these intuitive DX from Cypress with the test runner more, and the more, how can I call it? It's not completely behavior driven, but the more language like Cypress syntax? Or do you prefer the typical async syntax you are used to as a developer, but have it a bit more faster, a bit more stable, I think, but not with this wonderful test runner? It has some advantages, it has some disadvantages. One thing in Playwright I really like is the trace viewer because it helps you debugging in your pipelines. But yeah, both are really great, both have their perks, and if you want to choose, please, yeah, just play along with both and find what one you like most.
Good answer. What's your advice on when to choose unit testing versus end-to-end testing?
Oh, this is a good question because you really need to prioritize your end-to-end test because, of course, a computer clicking through a complete application, having the full application stack, does take more resources and does more cost. So, if you can for your test case, and if you can go with a unit test, prefer the unit test one. They are in more isolation, they are more easier to maintain and faster to execute. However, um, if you want to have a workflow from beginning to end, it's a happy path or a use case which causes lots of damage if it gets broken, please go with that one.
All right. Thank you. And is there a way to run Cypress on a remote server without a display?
Of course, there's a own command for it. It's called Cypress run. So basically use it the same way as we use open, just with the run keyword.
Okay. And how do you run Cypress in a headless environment? They usually SSH into a virtual environment, but was having issue with the exercise. Any suggestions?
Ooh, like there's a headless parameter you could use. So like there's headless. The run command should already work out. So I don't know if you used open. In case you use the open command, you always need a user, and it's a graphical interface. So this is normal. So try this run command, and if it didn't work out, please maybe reach out. Maybe we can help you then.
Yes, and also use in the Discord, there's the mentors area that y'all can
Hmm.
use to ask questions as well. So, uh, could you go into a bit more about what the fixtures folder is?
Sure. So there you can store like fixed test data as we did for the mocking, for example. There we store it so we can use it back later on, and it's easy to yeah, it's easy available test data. I like to use it, for example, if I have an API to, for example, create some data I need for my tests. I like to store the data, I like a name, whatever I want to create in this folder to have it at my disposal in a really neat way. And yeah, basically anything you want to have for your test, like maybe data, maybe stuff you want to put inside of your test, stuff like that.
Nice. All right. What are the main reasons you would recommend Cypress over other tools such like Cilium Base? And we talked about Playwright earlier. So, what are like the top three reasons why you'd go Cypress?
Well, the first one is the developer experience and this time travel feature. So I can retrace any step which was done inside of my task. And it helps me really much when it comes to debugging. Cypress is pretty flaky in its prune, if I can say it like this. So this implicit waiting possibility inside of the command, the dynamic ones like waiting for changes in UI, waiting for animations to stop, is much more stable than in comparison to Selenium, for example. And last but not least, I love this way of API testing which Cypress provides. So having easy mocks is really a time saver for me.
Gotcha. Thank you. And what is the command to get Cypress to run? It is not in the package.json file.
Yeah, it's one I just wanted to add for convenience. It's can I post it somewhere here, or I post it in Discord maybe? It's I called it cy colon open, and it's just the words Cypress and open. Or if you want to use it for the run command, Cypress and run respectively, separate by space.
Awesome. Thank you. And last but not least, is it good to rely on Tailwind classes to get elements in the DOM for testing in Cypress?
Well, it's difficult to use them because they are not that unique for the one element you want to go for, I think, but it depends on how you build it, of course. In general, Tailwind classes are the same like any other classes, in my opinion. Of course, you won't just rename them by yourself, but if you take it away and it's used as a selector inside of your test will fail. So better go with the Hitachi builds or anything which is not that prone to change.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Ramona. And thank you again for coming and teaching us so much. That ends our Q&A. And y'all go follow Ramona and stay in touch because always good info from her.
Thank you for having me, and thank you for taking your time to listen and to see me.
Thank you.